Hi, it's Marco with Hallmark Channel Baked with Love Holiday. Steven and I wanted to share some behind the scenes of the making of Baked with Love and answer a few questions that we've had along the way. Since we started this adventure, there's been lots of questions. We've had to be very secretive. We couldn't share a lot with anybody. So now you're going to have a little bit of a chance to find out what it was like to be on a major show for the Hallmark Channel. So I was actually contacted in March by an agent that I've worked with before. So Teresa Mason of Teresa Mason Casting has a long partnership with Steven and I and my sister and my brother-in-law. And probably 8-9 years ago, she sent us a project with Gordon Ramsay. And it was Steven, it was my sister Laura, my brother-in-law Carrie, and myself as a cooking team for a project that was being done at that time. We were cast for the show, and at the 12th plus hour, we were actually cut right before filming. So Teresa has remained a friend and has been kind of keeping us in our back pocket. And I've worked with her on another project, and then she reached out to me and said, I have something for you. And so originally with the show, it was going to be myself and my sister Laura. And my sister now lives in Dallas, Texas, which Teresa did not know at the time. So she said, well, what about Steven? And I said, Steven's not a baker, and I'm really not sure how this will come together. She goes, well, could he be? And I said, well, he could, but I'm really not sure. And so fast forward, I receive a text message, I receive a phone call, Zoom call from London, and somebody in London said, we want to talk to you about you and Steven being on the show. And we understand that Steven's not a baker, but could he be? And I'm going to give you 4 weeks to teach him how to be a baker. And you can't tell him. So I was given 4 weeks. I was given very easy assignments, and I had to kind of see how Steven would do and kind of gauge the process. The person I was speaking with said, you know, we do not want to set him up for a fail. So at any point that you feel he's not ready, we'll go ahead and pull you from the competition. So I found that Steven was really good at doing frostings, doing fills. His mascarpone fill is just amazing. And he would do all the sauces. So those kind of things so that I could focus on others. And so we had to work on assignments at home. So the show is based on family recipes and the stories that come with them. It's Hallmark. We love to tell a good story. So with that being said, we had to kind of look into my family recipes, his family recipes, and figure out what kind of work. So we did cookies, cakes, pies, all those kind of things. And we would have to make them, time it, write down all the ingredients, who did what and what period of time, take photos of it to present. And at one time in my career, I'd worked for a major photo studio doing photos for big magazines. And so for me, taking a photo, it has to look like it belongs in a magazine. So we would then present these. And so they would look at our technical ability, and we would have to describe a lot of things. So then they started giving us assignments. And we were one of the first teams cast. And I think in the process, they wanted to give us a little bit of lead time so that Steven could kind of feel comfortable in doing what he needed to do. So we had a lot of assignments, and we found out talking to some of the other teams, I think we had way more assignments than they did just because we had more time. And so leading up to that, they then started sending us assignments that these were going to be the big bakes of the series. So we have 2 bakes per episode. So the first one is a mystery. You have no idea what it's going to be. And on episode 1, in fact, we did not have a recipe card. We found out later everybody else did, but we actually missed it. So luckily we had in our blue binder, and we were given the ability to take 30 random recipes with us. And those recipes could be anything, but we had to submit those first to production so that they could look through them. Luckily, one of the things we had in there was an American apple pie, a crunchy apple pie. And that's what we made on the show. So we are working with these assignments that they're giving us, and they're finding they're becoming more and more technical. They are not the easiest thing in the world. We're finding the technical abilities on some of these things were really like pastry chefs. It wasn't home baker things. And I had studied my junior and senior year in high school. Western Hills High School had a fantastic vocational program at that time. So I had studied to be a pastry chef. And so I really excelled at it at that time, but I found it wasn't the direction I really wanted to go. So I had that in my past, but that was 40 plus years ago. And so then when all of this came along with my career, because I was a retail designer, I worked the entire holiday season. So with that, I don't have time to bake. And so I kind of stepped away from baking. So the show brought me back after like 20 years of really not baking to baking again, and having Steven as a student and knowing that we were going to be on national television having to bake. And so it was a lot of pressure. So we're making these things and we're getting assignments, and they're giving us really short timelines and apologies that we're really sorry, but we need these things in 2 days. And I still am partially with clients. So I would work during the day, we would bake at night, and sometimes till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we are still baking these things. And we ended up with tons and tons of stuff, and you don't know what to do with it. And I don't want to throw it away. So we started packaging things up. We were in the middle of construction in our kitchen. So our kitchen was only partially finished. We did not even have countertops. We had plastic tables. We had burnt out our mixer. So Steven had to buy a new mixer. So all the neighbors knew that we had a new kitchen. We bought a new mixer, and we're trying out recipes. So here it is, if you can imagine, March, April. And we're making Christmas cookies and pies and cakes. And we did a Santa Claus cake, which was an assignment that all of us had to do. So we're cutting it in pieces, but not taking the piece with Santa Claus's face on it. And I'm wrapping it up, and I'm taking a tray up and down the street, and I'm knocking on people's doors, and I'm giving them baked goods. And they loved it, but they really couldn't figure out what was going on. And we couldn't tell them. We couldn't tell our families. And we had all of those things going on. At the same time, both of our mothers were ill and had to have surgeries right before we were to leave for the show. And so we were having to juggle a lot. In my case, my sister Laura had to fly in from Dallas to help take care of my mom, because we were contracted before all of that happened to be on this show. And so she was getting ready to fly in. A day and a half before our flight, I had a major injury to my left hand, and we didn't know what we were going to do. And my injury was bad. So I had to contact production and say, I've been injured, I'm not sure what's going to go on. So they set everything up for when I landed to have medical treatment twice a day. I was on antibiotics. I was being treated. There was tons of paperwork that was being done. Paul, our medic, was fantastic. But these are all the kind of things that you do just even getting ready to go over there to do a show. So we land in London, we get picked up by this beautiful car that takes us all the way into the Cotswolds. We lived in this little village called Chipping Norton. And you've seen Agatha Christie movies of these beautiful little villages. Well, that's what it was. And so we got to live in this village. And we were one of the first contestants to actually be in the hotel. So we got to meet with the welfare team, which were fabulous and took very, very good care of us. And so one by one, all of these people started showing up, but there was also other guests that were in the hotel. So you didn't know who was there for the show and who was there for meetings. And so you're kind of guessing, and you figure, okay, the people with American accents are the ones that are going to be on the show. So you kind of figure that out because you're in England. And so we started one by one finding and meeting people and really starting to share a little bit about ourselves and what we do, but yet knowing this is a competition and you don't want to show your entire hand of cards because somebody may use that against you. Stay tuned for the next episode.